I'm very privileged to be joined here today by an incredible individual, an entrepreneur, someone who's looking to disrupt the dating space. And we'll go into all of the incredible statistics that he's here to share about how the environment is ever changing. I want to welcome you all to Charan. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Ali, and supporting the cause. As you said, my name's Charan. I'm the CEO and founder of Lost Love. We're a new, hot, rapidly expanding dating app based out of London. And in essence, we're dedicated to taking dating environment away from decadence and debauchery to respect and responsibility. Brilliant,
fantastic. And, I'm keen to dig into why you felt that you needed to come into the space and change things, because you don't really hear of much innovation occurring in the sort of the dating app environment. I know it's quite recent anyways. I would say my understanding of the industry is that it really began probably in the early 2000s, if I'm not mistaken. So you don't hear much going on. Obviously there are the big players, but what prompted you to want to create a new dating app?
No, absolutely, you're correct. There was the emergence of dating websites, and then I think around 2008, just out of the crisis, we got Tinder, and we've had a decade of Tinder, and Tinder has defined dating for the last 10 years for our generation, the generation before us, and the generation that's coming.
Yeah.
And the way they defined it is fast, shallow, and they're not really solving any problem. What they created is, with the greatest respect, is a meat market. We just come and you look at people, and none of the dating apps, Hinge, Bumble, and Tinder being the main ones, actually help you in finding a great relationship. Now, we are a dating agency app, but we consider ourselves we say that just to make it easy for everyone, but we're a relationship app. We don't want people on the app that aren't looking for love. Right. Yeah. But one thing people need to remember is people talk about centralized governments and centralized currencies. Dating is globally centralized. There's a company called the Match Group. It's a conglomerate. It's a multi-billion dollar conglomerate. And it actually owns Tinder and Hinge.
Wow. Okay. I didn't know that.
So they didn't create them, but they acquired both of them.
Right.
So they sort of created the chaos with Tinder and then gave you the remedy. But would you trust the fox to give you the remedy?
That's a very good point, actually. I had no idea. So it's almost like they're playing both sides, really.
Absolutely.
So they're creating a problem and then trying to solve it.
And then give you the solution, the proposed solution.
Yeah.
And the problem with that is, sure, Hinge is you could argue perhaps a less debaucherous place, but it still is debaucherous. But the idea that the same company that created the problem can truly fix the problem has never throughout history. I mean, I'm getting very serious about dating. I'm sorry, but it's political for me.
Yeah.
It's spiritual and political. I cannot expect the Match Group to build or to acquire the thing that would potentially decimate their already vested interests.
Yeah.
So this is why there are three main problems when it comes to dating. Users, on average, are spending 90 minutes per day, every single day, swiping on dating apps.
Wow, 90 minutes.
90 minutes every single day.
Every day, wow.
It takes the average male 2 months and 6,000 swipes to score one date.
Wow, that is sad.
It takes the average user around 57 dates to score a relationship. So on average, just about a year or just over a year's worth of dating.
Wow. That is that's a very sad, thing to hear of, really. From the guys that I speak to, whether it's on my coaching calls or, friends of mine, there's always complaints about how the game is. None of them really are sharing positive experiences. I can't really think of one friend of mine who's got into a serious relationship / marriage from using dating apps. What do you think the biggest problem is with dating apps today?
Great question. There's three big problems. One is the fact that people are spending 90 minutes a day, which is an ancillary problem, not the main problem, but it's a functional problem that does matter. The second is economic. Dating is the only arena within which you will pay money for something that you're not guaranteed to get. You'll pay money for swipes and like capabilities like a slot machine.
Yeah.
But you're paying money knowing that there is no guarantee you will actually get the product, which is a date at the very least,
Yeah.
when you spend your money. But the most important problem, the one that is never and not being solved until we arrived,
Yeah.
is the matching mechanism.
Right. Tell us about that a little bit.
There is a mechanics to relationships.
If you just get the mic a little bit closer, that's it. Yeah.
What it takes to have a great relationship, Annie, is known to us
Yeah.
and has been known for decades. The science is there and it's been there for a long time.
Okay. That's
We can predict John Gottman, Amir Levine, Helen Fisher, aspects of Jordan Peterson. We have all the science. Love is a separate thing. We can debate that as a separate topic. It's fleeting. It needs to be there. It doesn't really need to be there, all these things. But what we know for sure is that you have what we believe is relationship mechanics. Over a long enough time horizon, that is what really matters. That is the only thing that endures.
Yeah.
And that is the thing which we can apply science to match you with someone that you can have a great relationship. Let me go deeper.
Yeah.
What that means is if your past, present, a view of the future, your attitude towards risk, money, conflict resolution styles, spirituality, attachment styles, if these things align, you are guaranteed to have a great relationship.
Wow. That's incredible.
So our algorithm is steeped in all of this science. So we've created the most sophisticated matching mechanism on the planet. Hands down. Anyone wants to compete with me, come on this podcast, any dating app CEO, I'm calling it out. You host a debate, I'll debate them.
Yeah.
But it goes deeper. The matching mechanism is the problem, but we go further in our thirst to want to fix the entire ecosystem. The economic problem of users paying for something they're not guaranteed.
Right.
We have a success-based payment model.
How does that work?
You only pay money to us when we've actually delivered you value, which is a match. Now, hold on, Ali. Your users might be thinking, well, sometimes I get matches on Tinder and Hinge. They are nowhere near the quality of match you'll get with us.
Right.
Nowhere near.
Yeah.
So when you're paying for a match with Last Love, it's of an infinite higher quality and likely to have an infinite higher success rate. You cannot compare a match on Tinder to a match on Last Love.
Right. Yeah.
You pay when we deliver the value. And finally, it's autonomous. We do everything for you. There's no swiping, there's no scrolling, there's no 90 minutes a day anymore. So what we've done is we've taken the dating agency model. In our parents' times, you'd call up an agency, a lady or a man will come to your home, they'd sit down, they'd have a cup of tea with you, get a feeling of your vibe, ask you questions, and go away and check their portfolio. A bit like the biodata in Indian matchmaking.
Yeah.
And what we've done is we've essentially taken that model
Yeah.
and provided the efficiency through an app to be able to deliver that service at scale.
Right.
So we've combined dating apps efficiency, the quality matching of a dating agency, and merged it together.
Right, I see. That stands out to me as disruptive because, you know, most dating apps today adopt the same sort of model. Swipe until you get a match and then pray for the best. Hope
Absolutely.
that this person is even interested enough to want to see you. So I definitely like the aspect of taking on board information from a new user, compiling that information, and then having a team work on that.
Yes.
So run me through, if I was to sign up,
Yep.
what would be my first step? What would I have to do?
Sure. The greatest thing about the app is you're met with a warning message. I want to make a point of this. And the warning message says, if you're not ready to be in a relationship, leave. We don't want you to be there.
Right, okay.
If you hate the opposite sex, leave.
Good.
You're not my customer. I will pay you to not be my customer.
Yeah.
We don't want you. If you're not ready to have a relationship, you don't feel love towards the opposite gender, let alone an individual, then don't come to the app. Sorry, I had a bit of a moment there. I'm having a moment here.
I'm with you on that.
But
100%.
objectively speaking, you sign up to the app, you answer about 60 multiple choice questions,
Okay.
which are steeped in such personal, we're inquiring about really deep and personal and meaningful things. Now, to incentivize you to answer honestly, no one will see the answers to your questions. They will remain confidential. None of your matches will see any of your answers.
Good.
And the
okay.
reason for that is because we want you to share with us the deepest parts of yourself so we can match you in a productive way.
Right.
No one sees the answers to the questions. The algorithm sees the answers to the questions. We don't necessarily see them either.
Okay.
So you answer 60 questions, then you upload a video of you answering a question because we want to understand your vibe. You upload your pictures as you would expect, and then finally, a voice recording of you describing yourself.
Right. Okay.
Now, once that's done, you do nothing. We do everything for you. You haven't paid any money yet. Up until this, everything is free. Now, our algorithm will pool you with other users that you're likely to have a good relationship with.
Okay.
Now, finding those people, we're not in a rush. We can't control that. It may take a day, a couple of days, a couple of weeks, but we will not serve you with a match until we are confident that you can have a good relationship with them.
Right. I see.
So when that match has been found, you'll be notified. Both individuals will be notified. Both individuals have to express an interest in whether they want to take this further and communicate with one another. Essentially match.
Of course.
If both users agree to match, you both pay a small fee of £9.99. And sorry, let me take it back there. When you're served with the match, before you agree to the match, you get a disappearing image, Snapchat-like situation.
Yeah.
The reason why is we absolutely don't want to play games, but we want to try and take you away from the shallow nature that you're used to.
Yes.
But I understand the need for the human need to see, men more so than women, but women too.
Yeah, of course.
So it's a disappearing image. You see it for a few seconds. That's the way it's going to be. I'm sorry. We're trying to take society away from the shallow nature of dating, and we're happy to lead that. And if that doesn't fit well with you, you're not my customer. Sorry.
Yeah.
You know, and then you get a voice recording of them describing themselves, which you can listen to infinitely.
Okay.
Because this helps you get a better understanding of like who they are, how they speak, you know, and they're describing themselves. We think it's a good way for you to become familiar with the person without necessarily having to see too much of them. And then, as I said, at that point, if you both agree, you'll be prompted to make a payment, and then you can talk to each other freely, and that's how it works.
That's really refreshing because, you know, and I like how you've incorporated the whole disappearing image thing, because I believe we live in a world today where, and maybe Instagram has affected us, where everything has to be perfect, everything has to look good. And obviously with dating apps, the only thing that you're judging, because that's the only thing that you can see, is someone's appearance. You can't know their personality. I know Hinge has maybe added some voice, you know, memos and stuff, but it's still at the very early stages, I believe. And so I like how you've incorporated sort of a disappearing image and then obviously a message where somebody can listen to what this person has to say about themselves. And obviously your vocal image is something that gives someone you know, a perspective on who you are, because I believe in the way you present yourself, visual image, but also the vocal image as well. You know, I've had it before where people are like, I didn't think you'd sound this way. Yeah, I don't know what they meant by that exactly, but a lot of people are like, I didn't expect you to sound this way, you know. And I was like, okay, is that a good thing? Or so that's really refreshing to see. And then from there, obviously, you match them two together. And
if I may explain, I haven't covered this. So the algorithm that has been steeped in the science will match you, pool you with other users, and then a human being will match you physically, one of our individuals, one of our matchmakers. We'll just make sure we also want you to have love and lust for your partner, and we understand that that's important. So there will be a case of some human interaction, intervention, to make sure that you physically align. Now we do ask for information on, you know, I'll just use the lowest hanging fruit words here. We do ask shallow questions just to take them into account. We don't necessarily take them into account. I'm not saying we do. Yeah. But in scenarios, perhaps where you've been matched with a wide pool of people, then we may draw on these things just to be able to deliver you the best outcome, right? But it's absolutely not something we lead with. Yeah,
I mean, I think it's still important to ask those shallow questions because, of course, the core values are the thing that, in my opinion, have to align for somebody to have a successful relationship. I'd love to take your take on that as well, such as, for example, whether or not you believe in God. You know, for a lot of people, they want their partner to be someone who is religious or believes in God at least. Do you want children? You know, do you want me to work or not work? This is for the women, right? You know, some guys, they want their partner to chip in. I'm not of the belief that, you know, your partner should chip in. As a man, I believe you should embrace that responsibility. But of course, on top of that as well, there are some lesser important questions, but they're still important, you know, such as, you know, appearances and, you know, do you prefer someone with this color hair, this color eye? So, yeah.
It's interesting you bring that up because everything you've mentioned is part of my data collection. I can't give too much away about the matching mechanism, but and it's the best example I can give you about, without giving too much away about how the algorithm works. And I'll give something for the guys and the girls. This is the best way to conceptualize sort of our ethos. You have a girl, guys bothered about this as well. Just allow me, right? Give me a break. So girls and guys, but girls most often, they really want to know, and rightfully so, in how many years does gentleman want to have kids and want to get married? This is a really important question to ask.
Yeah.
On other dating apps, you don't know that before you meet them. When you meet them, you can't ask them because you look crazy. So what actually happens is you will need to know this information because it's important.
Yeah.
You date them for 4 to 6 months before you have, one, the courage, and it becomes socially acceptable. By which time you ask them, you realize you don't align, you've both wasted 6 months.
I was literally going to bring that up, actually. I think...
But we control for this. I will tell you this now. You can be certain, this bit I'll give you away, you only match with someone who aligns with you in that way in terms of when you want to get married, when you want to have kids.
That's brilliant.
And for the guys, we know statistically, because there's science and there's statistics, right?
Yeah.
And statistics can always be disputed, but science often can't. But statistically, relationships do best when the man either earns the same or slightly out-earns the lady. We only match users when the man out-earns the lady.
That's very interesting.
I'm trying to show you the depth of where we're going to.
Yeah. And I think I was going to say this, really, from what I've understood so far, one of the things that I really respect is you're also in the time-saving business. Because I think one of the biggest letbacks of traditional dating apps is the fact that, you go out with somebody eventually after 6,000 swipes or so, for the average guy, you're there. And then you realize maybe within 10, 15 minutes, oh God, we don't meet eye to eye on anything, by the sounds of it. And then there you are, you've wasted time. Not only the time to get that match to begin with, but then also to travel, to sit down, this and this. And look, I'm a believer that not everybody will align with you 100%. But what are the odds from traditional dating apps that you will at least meet the core values? I believe that's very low. You have
non-existent, zero odds. With us, there's 100% chance. You know what I mean? And the interesting thing about us, with the greatest respect, is we know what it takes to have a good relationship based on the science. Just trust us. Like, we know what is best for you. You don't necessarily know what your attachment style is or what best aligns with that, but we do. But to your original point about shallow aspects and stuff. I understand this is important, and it's I can say it's rich of me saying this now at my old age, as the old man I am, and the life I've lived. But a message to the young guys, like, this seems so obvious for me to say. I'm just going to say it though. Like, it doesn't matter how she looks. I'm speaking to the guys here. I could send a message to the girls as well.
Touch on that.
It really doesn't matter. I can't tell you how much, and I'll give you the backstory here, how I come about this knowledge. I'm one of 4 brothers. I didn't have the privilege of growing up around young women or women at all. So when I first started dating, I didn't really understand women. I didn't understand how to do it, how to execute. Didn't really get them anywhere,
Yeah.
And then rather than what the status quo is now, is to hate them or, think badly of them, I read books, I spoke to elders, I consulted my scripture, I spoke to religious leaders. I tried to gather as much data as possible. And it took me on, almost a decade-long campaign of reading about relationship psychology, female biochemistry, and love, the philosophy of love.
Yeah.
And I didn't know all the while I was doing the groundwork for building this business. So...
it all connected. I mean, from that journey that you undertook, what were your biggest takeaways from, how women actually are? Because there's what we see on YouTube. We spoke about this before we began the podcast. There's a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of so-called male self-help content creators that ill-advise our fellow brothers and basically attack women on a consistent basis and and tell men to prioritize things that are really not that important. What do you believe you've learned, over the journey that you undertook about women, and what were your biggest takeaways?
Women and men, and as society, we've been led to debauchery. Debauchery is not natural for us. Love, pure, sweet, rom-com love, that is natural to us. It's not absent of chaos and struggle. So that aspect of rom-coms is wrong. Rom-com love exists in and amongst chaos and disagreement and confrontation and negotiation, right? But the debauchery that we see, we've been led to debauchery. We'd like to think too much of ourselves, that we have this autonomy, and a lot of us do. But psychological autonomy, can you really say you're not influenced by the things you see on the TV or on the internet? And some of that time that can be good. But even if I read a book called Why We Sleep, Mark Walker, he's an alum of my university actually, which is the reason why I read it. I completely changed my entire sleeping regime. So now how can I accept that and then say that I'm not being convinced by other things that necessarily I don't agree with, but are spilling into my mind? So my general statement there is this idea that women are these, hypergamous, like blood-sucking, money-sucking, thirsty Voldemort type beings is wrong. Those women exist.
Yeah.
That has been learned. Same way men being made out or encouraged to be these like horny degenerates who care about nothing other than money and sex is also completely wrong.
Yeah.
And when you're sitting at the end of your bed single on a Sunday night, I'm telling the truth because you just want to have love, right? So that's what I learned. But a message to the people who feel disillusioned. I know we're on a sort of a men's self-help, if I can call it that, a channel here. There is a natural level of hypergamy. It has to exist.
Define what hypergamy is for those that don't know what it is. I've spoken about it previously on the channel, but for someone watching for the first time. So
hypergamy is when women date for resources in order to survive, right? They date across and up social hierarchies. And that is, guys, that is needed. It is evolutionary, it's scientific, and a healthy level of it is absolutely needed. If the first women weren't that way, they would have died and we wouldn't exist. Is there an unnatural level of it right now? Absolutely, it's festering. Who are to blame for that? Is it the women? Maybe it is. But could it also be the fake 1% jocks online who are dog whistling to these women? Because I think this isn't talked about enough. There are plenty of girls next door who are being dog whistled to, who would have never been that way inclined to viciously go for people with status, but all they're seeing is these guys, a lot of whom are pretending to have wealth, or a lot of them that get it through like, unreasonable or sort of unimitable means. And then they think this is the norm, and very little on the internet is normal. And it's just dog whistled into making these girls next door this way. So there's a lot to be said for this, and I don't think it's said enough.
Absolutely.
And I have something called the equal and opposite. Men and women are yin and yang. We're equal in our opposition. I don't mean we're equal. We're equal in our opposition. What this means is for everything they have, we have something that's the equal and opposite. They have hypergamy within them. It's evolutionary. And we also have this, and that is a qualifier. That's initial qualifier. It has no bearing. Their hypergamy, their need to want hypergamy, has no bearing, and they care very little about it after 1 or 2 years into a relationship. And our equal and opposite to that is the looks. Yes, it's a pull for initial conversation, for initial intrigue. But the moment you've spoken to her, I hope, and you should be in a position where it really doesn't matter anymore. And that's the equal and opposite. When you can stop being that way, then you've got an argument that you can start convincing women to stop being hypergamous. But you can't. It's natural.
Exactly. And I've said it before on the channel. It's almost naive to not expect women to take advantage of the opportunities that they now have. I mean, as you mentioned, it's an evolutionary thing. We are a better race as a result of women choosing better qualified men to lead a family. I mean, if somebody was very ill and unable to take care of themselves, maybe it's self-inflicted. Somebody who is financially not where he wants to be, once again, it could be self-inflicted, bad decisions. That person isn't going to look like a great option for this woman, and it's against her best interest, and it's dangerous almost for her to choose this individual, because then she compromises her safety. She doesn't have financial support, physical support. Social status is something a lot of guys talk about on these podcasts, status, this obsession with a man's status. What that basically signifies is that this man is somebody that people respect, and there are reasons behind that. You don't just get status for no reason. There are a series of events that have taken place for people to now look up to you. It's like the whole money thing. When guys say, oh no, these women are gold diggers. They're not gold diggers. I mean, of course, there are going to be a very small percentage of women out there who are exclusively going to be dating men of a certain caliber. And even then, I don't care, and neither should you guys. Why should you worry about that? First of all, if you have no money in your bank account, why are you stressed about that? It's always the guys with no money. An interesting observation. But, it's the whole obsession with money. Women, from my understanding, and because I've spoken to a few, of course, women over the years, they just want a man who is stable. Beyond a certain amount of money, there's not much of a difference in quality of life anyways. And they've done studies on this where, beyond 60,000 a year, there's not much of an increase in happiness. It becomes like a diminishing curve.
Law of diminishing returns, yeah.
Exactly. And so, these women that these guys are so afraid of, they're not out there asking you what color yacht you have, or, whether you have a Mercedes G-Wagon, or, they don't care. They just want somebody who is stable enough to be able to pay the rent, pay the bills, have a car, take her out occasionally. That's my understanding. There's
a lot of nuance to this. You touched on some great points. Like the way you said it's really good. I'd like to offer something on this subject. I agree with you entirely. The vast majority of women, firstly, even we do it ourselves. Sometimes I spend too much time on the internet. I need to get out and breathe some air. You know what I mean? Like get in the real world, go speak to some girls in real life, right? Yeah. I'm happily in a relationship, so I don't do that. But what I mean to say is let's say I'll give you a situation where girl meets boy, man makes 30 to 40,000 pounds a year, and she's happy with the circumstances and everything that comes with that, and his standard of living and all the rest of it. But what happens is, when they get into a relationship, for whatever reason, the man wants more. You have created the insecurity now in your relationship. You have created the abyss. You have created your own inadequacy just by thinking you're not earning enough. That inadequacy is now picked up by her. Now she's looking at you. You have told her you're inadequate. It's the male version of saying, do I look fat in this?
Yes.
It's the male version.
Yes.
We do it to ourselves. They're happy. And then we start complaining, doing extra hours at work, saying, I don't make enough money, I want more money. You have created your inadequacy. She never brought it up. She was happy. Yeah. Now, I'm not foolish enough to know that the world changes, circumstances change, you need more money, I get that. But it is your responsibility as a man to do it in a very confident, structured way, that you don't look like you're some weak victim, and you do it in an offensive, confident way. Draw on your network, draw on your resources, up your skill yourself in a confident way.
Yes.
But as soon as you become insecure to it, on the back foot as if you're losing in life, you need to get better, you have created the ground for the destruction of the sort of psychological intimacy that you need to maintain.
That's incredibly well put. I fully agree with you. I think the way you view, the issues that you have will be perceived differently by the woman. I mean, if you view your financial situation as an absolute catastrophe and you start acting this way, naturally you will. I mean, thoughts affect the way that we act. Absolutely they do. And I always speak about this on the channel. And that's why it's very important to make sure that you ground your thoughts, you remain stoic, you're calm and collected, because this way you don't make rash decisions. And so 100% women pick up on those signals, because you are leading the relationship. And if you're not confident in your ability to lead, well, then you can't blame her for starting to have doubts. And that's why relationships end. And I actually have a question for you. Do you think that the majority of the relationships that end today begin with a man's insecurity about his ability to lead? I'm interested to know why you think relationships end in today's age. Do you think it's more so the men that are not carrying their weight, or maybe they changed throughout the relationship? They started off, confident, the guy, sure of himself, I'm going to build this business. A year later, overweight, the business is nowhere to be seen, false promises. What do you think is the biggest reason?
It's a great question. We're almost reaching a disagreement, which is enjoyable. To your original point, I just want to make sure, because I think there was an elephant in the room that I didn't address. I'm not saying you can't get into hardship and not speak to your partner. That's absolutely not what I'm saying. Do I think that's the first port of call? Definitely not. That's not for the first port of call. If you want it to be, that's fine. I'm not saying there's no absolute. I'm very lucky to have a partner who I can be like that way with. It's probably because the level I'm operating at is a bit extreme. So my problems aren't small. I have very big, very worrying problems, but it helps to have big problems.
Yes.
We just operate at a different level. But I would encourage you, I would never discourage someone from talking to their partner, but like, you've got to build, sorry, I'll come back to this.
Yeah,
You've got to build the pedigree of that. You've got to compound that. Don't come and throw the biggest problem possible to your partner immediately. You work up to that, argue about the toilet seat first, and argue about the bed sheets, and argue about something else. And then you build that pedigree and that skin to then take on those bigger challenges. So yeah, that's what I'll say to that. But to your original point now, like, why are people breaking up? This is such a complicated question. I have a view of this. I think generally people, like, it takes a lot of effort to be happy. Like a friend of mine, like, he doesn't enjoy going out. It takes a lot of effort to do your working week, and then on the weekend still get up, get ready, and go see friends, or go for a hike or something. It takes a lot of effort to have a good life. Not an extreme amount, but it does take effort. If you're not putting at least as much effort into your relationship as you're in your 9 to 5, you're doing something wrong. Something is wrong. So generally speaking, I think both people are responsible, because I think it's a push and a pull, it's a waltz. I spoke to, you guys will probably know him, Simon Squibb. And we spoke about this, and he said, Charan, life works in stages. It's not 50-50, it's 100-100. When I'm not feeling it, you pick up the slack, you encourage me, and the other way around as well. So it has to be a partnership. Now, one thing novel that I have to offer on this subject is the masculinity and femininity argument. I think the people who are propagating masculine and femininity, they don't understand it enough over a long enough time horizon. I think masculinity and femininity is spoken about in a dating way. Dating doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. Your ability to be good at dating has no bearing on your ability to have a long-term relationship. And ultimately, that's what you're going to do. So you building the skills, nuance, intelligence for dating, it's useless. In the arena of dating, what's been said about masculine and femininity may be true, but it's absolutely not true when it comes to relationships. Let me explain what I mean. Women aren't masculine enough. Divisive.
Interesting.
Let me explain.
Yeah.
Invariably, when you have a long-term relationship, things are going to go wrong.
Yes.
Someone's going to die, you might lose your job, you might get redundant, anything can happen. That's just life. And over a long enough time horizon, I guarantee I'll put my house on it. Ideally, you're going to be with someone 60 years. Trust me, you're going to have 10 life and relationship defining moments. And in those moments, when there is no love and there is only struggle, the reason to remain, there's no reason other than duty.
Yes.
That is a masculine trait. And women lack that. Because 70% of the time, on average, they are initiating the breakups. Reason why is because when those hard time comes, they're too within their femininity to come into their masculinity and go, this is just a phase. Let me not allow my evolutionary thing to kick in and leave and seek refuge and security. Let me endure with this person who has already proven to me he can persevere, and let me give him another chance.
Wow.
That is a masculine trait that women lack.
That's a very interesting take.
So this ecosystem where we're encouraging women to just bathe in their femininity is so ridiculous, and I'm so against it. And any woman that I meet on a podcast, I tell them, don't think you have the privilege in this world to sit around and bathe in your femininity. You've got work to do as well.
100%.
Now, let me go further with this.
Yeah, tell me.
Men and women both have to have masculinity in their back pocket.
Yes.
As a man, you need to have femininity. You may not think that's obvious now when you're in your relationship. It does become obvious 10 days of the month. I'm sure you know what I mean by that. You will absolutely need to have feminine. I'm not going to drill down into the objective how that manifests, because I don't want people to start getting hung up on, what makes a man, or what makes a woman, whatever. Just take my words for, you have to have a feminine tinge 10 days of the month. If you don't know what I mean, read a book, right? And it's the same with women. Women also are obliged to be able to call on masculinity when necessary. And this dog whistle to women that they can just bathe in their femininity is just absolutely wrong.
Yeah, that's a very, very powerful take. Do Do you think that's influenced by childhood and obviously the relationship of the parents? Or do you think that social media takes over when, a girl becomes an adult and a guy becomes an adult as well? Do you think that the social media aspect changes how they were brought up? Because I know a lot of people that were brought up in stable, married households that are having chaotic relationships. Do you think it's because of what they see on social media? And this is something actually that I want to get your take on as well, because I see on TikTok and Instagram a lot of so-called dating coaches projecting their own insecurities and failures onto other people and telling people to, if a man doesn't do X, Y, Z, he's not a real man.
Yeah.
And the other way around as well. If she don't do this, I hear this all the time. If she don't sleep with you on the first date, she's not keen. And I'm like, what on earth are you talking about?
Yeah.
I
absolutely agree with you. I think people, and I've got so many anecdotes of people people don't know they're victims of trauma, and they're giving advice from a frame of trauma. Yes. Read a book, man, and you can very easily find out that you are the problem.
Yes.
I did that myself. I wasn't the problem, but I definitely wasn't executing properly. And it didn't take me that long to find out, I wasn't executing it all properly, right? But in answer to your question, I am no expert on masculinity and femininity. There's a lady called, I'll send you the link, Danielle. She's the one I've interacted with on this subject, and she, there's wounded feminine and wounded masculinity. There's many different levels to masculinity and femininity, but in general terms, yes, one's masculinity and femininity is influenced by their upbringing, their childhood trauma, and what they see on social media, and it's both of our responsibilities. It is my responsibility as a man to make sure I hold enough masculine frame, but also usher in the femininity was needed at a healthy state.
Yes.
It's natural for the man in a relationship to want to masculinize the woman to the point where I can just say something, you understand what I mean, we don't have to discuss it further. You're masculine, I can say something, I don't even have to say something, you understand me. It's normal to want to do that. It's normal for the woman to want to feminize the man, so it makes the relationship easy. Almost I've conquered you.
Yes.
But you never want to conquer the person. And it's your responsibility to make sure it's there, you show enough for the relationship to exist, but not enough so that there's two feminine people, there's two masculine people, because the relationship ends. And at every second in time, every day, every hour, every minute, that's the constant battle of the juggle that everyone should be doing, men and women.
That's right. And I want to ask you a question, because a lot of people have this expectation that there's someone out there who is perfect for them.
Great question.
Right? Compatibility is a word that's thrown around quite a lot. But we're not compatible. And people say that about someone that they've only been speaking to for 2 days, via text message. So I'm keen to know what your take on compatibility is. I heard a quote recently from a professor on YouTube. I don't know what his name was. You might know. He said that compatibility is an achievement of love, not something you need from the beginning. And that hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, wow, because I've spoken to girls over the years, and that word is brought up, it's mentioned, and I'm always fascinated by how easily it's brought up as well. In the same way that people will say things like, toxic and this and that. A lot of words are thrown around, and without people really thinking about the words that they're using. And
what's the word? Narcissist is a good word.
Yeah, narcissist, gaslight. I didn't know about until I got into a relationship. Obviously, as a man, you have to pause and you have to reflect on these things. I'm very careful with what comes out of my mouth, because I don't want to make absolute statements about something that I'm not really informed of. And so, what do you think about compatibility?
Yeah, it's a great question. I laughed at gaslighting. I'm not making light of genuine gaslighting, but as I said, I think it is banded about too much. This is a great question, actually. I was discussing it with a few friends of mine yesterday over dinner. We had this exact same conversation. The first time someone asked me outright, and I have a great answer for this. There's no such thing as the one. It doesn't exist. You don't have or find a great relationship, you build one. So, and we will help you do that. Obviously, we're going to match you with someone. Yeah. But at any point in time, let's say we match you with someone now who you align with now. It's a guaranteed possibility. It's absolutely guaranteed that you're going to be with each other 60 years, hopefully. One of you is going to change. Something traumatic might happen. You just might get a new lease of life. You might meet someone different. You might have a near-death experience. Someone's going to change in some way. And both people have to be prepared to change. And the degree to which you allow this to happen is up to you. It's your personal view and what you're willing to accept. But the idea that both people should be willing to change is absolute. It should always be the case. How much you choose to do that is up to you. And the reason why is because it's beautiful to change in the mind's eye of your partner in order for you to have a beautiful relationship. That's honorable, right?
Yeah.
And again, just like the masculinity and femininity, you've got to manage that in a way that you don't feel threatened or obsessed or whatever. And if you do it over a long enough time horizon, everything becomes very easy and calm. Don't, I say, never impose something on your partner. Neither partner is obliged to do anything, but it's your right to ask for something. But it's not their right to oblige.
Yes.
And equally, when you're in a relationship, relax a bit more. When you do things over a long enough time horizon, maybe something else will convince him in the future. Girls often have the issue of, he doesn't listen to me or whatever. And what I say to them is, maybe the message doesn't come from you. Maybe you speak to his mother or his pastor or his brother or his friend. Maybe someone else needs to speak to him in a different vernacular. But people think just because the message doesn't get through from them, that the relationship is over. No, let me speak to him as a guy in a male vernacular, in a different setting. And maybe I inspire the change that happens a month later. People need to stop being so short-term and so absolute. Stretch your relationship over 60 years, and everything will be fine. But in short answer to your question, there's no such thing as a one. You have to build. But Tinder has created the idea that there is the one, that I'm just waiting to find the one. I shouldn't say this because I'm in a relationship, but I'll say it anyway. I can be in a relationship with anyone. I believe in co-founding relationships, but actually I don't believe in leading. I believe at certain points in time, certain scenarios make necessary a leader, but general day-to-day, I'm happy to co-found. But what I mean to say is, with my knowledge of dating relationships, if me and my partner just lent on my knowledge, I am confident I could lead any relationship to success.
That's fascinating.
Because if they're willing to work with me and change and compromise, and because I don't know, in the future, my girlfriend may need to change in some big way in order for our relationship to continue to exist. And I hope, and another thing is, people look too short-sighted. If that moment comes where I need my girlfriend to change in a big way, not need as an impose, just something happens in my life. I don't know, I lose a leg. It doesn't have to be so sinister where I'm imposing something on her. Maybe I need her to give charity to me, right, in some big way. Love compounds. The things I can negotiate with my girlfriend now are nowhere near the scale that I can negotiate in 5 or 10 years. People are looking at it in a straight line.
They are very short-sighted,
It's short-sighted. The things I could negotiate with my partner a year ago pale into existence on what I can negotiate from her now. And people don't think about that. They want everything now, negotiate everything now. Give yourself time.
Yes, absolutely. I'm with you 100% on that. I think people are definitely very short-sighted, and they have a very low tolerance to any sort of conflict. And look, there are situations that I definitely sympathize with men and women on when it comes to ending a relationship, such as violence and stuff like that. Of course, that's a non-negotiable. However, it's very true that people today give up very quickly. Oh, you think this way? Okay, well, you know what? It's over. Because someone else will. And I think that's damaging us. I really do believe that. And I think in order to have a relationship that spans decades, because I'm very fascinated by long relationships. When I see old couples together, I always approach them. I'm always like, hey, how long have you been together? And, I've heard 50 years, I've heard 60 years before. And I'm like, wow, 60 years. I mean, you mentioned the 10 sort of potentially life-altering moments that occur during the course of a relationship, or relationship-defining moments, as you put it. Imagine how many moments there were of a relationship that spans 6 decades, and how did they make it work? That's always something that intrigues me, because now, people talk for a couple of weeks, someone says something, someone gets the ick, as some girls like to say. I get the ick from the word ick. I don't like it. And there's a lot of videos, comedic videos on TikTok flying around of, when you can't find a parking space, it's an ick. And so, people now just, it's over. That's it. Just like that. It's finished. There's no compromise. Do you think we're missing the ability to cooperate with each other effectively? Do you think communication is the problem that we're having? Do you think it's conflict resolution? Because that's something that isn't really spoken about very much.
Yeah.
We expect this person to be perfect, and if they're not, then it's the wrong person. Whereas conflict resolution, I believe, is a skill. You don't get taught that skill by your parents. I've never sat down with my dad when I was a teenager and him advised me on how to calm a woman down when she's angry or anything like that. It's not spoken about. And so we go into our first relationships as guys and we make all of these mistakes, and we're like, why are you not, why don't you want to hug me? And what's going on? And she's like, when she's angry at you, she doesn't want to look at you, and actually the book Where the Superior Man talks about this. There's a lot of mistakes that guys aren't paying attention to. One of them actually is expecting their woman to get easier. There's actually a chapter in the book saying, don't expect your woman to get easier. And that isn't derogatory in any way. What that means is relationship problems will always occur. And it's your ability to navigate your way around them in the most loving, masculine way that will define whether the relationship, continues to prosper or collapses. So what do you think is, or what are these skill sets that we're not paying attention to in order to keep a relationship thriving? Because a business takes a lot of work, and someone could argue that a marriage is a business.
Yeah.
We are navigating our way through this very, difficult environment.
Yeah.
Things will always change. Cost of living crisis. God forbid somebody's wife has a miscarriage. How are you going to navigate the trauma? So there's many things. What do you think are the skill sets that we need to pay attention to as men and women in order to continue to have a thriving relationship?
You're completely right. I've got more to say, but you're completely right. The ick about the ick is definitely another one of your lines there. Clip that, snip that. You're absolutely right. I'm sensationalizing to make my point. What I mean is normally the center, but I sensationalize the point so you can deeply understand me or easily understand me. If you approach your relationship 70% of the time with the structure of a business or your work, planning, smart goals, check-ins, updating remuneration, increasing pay, and all this kind of thing, damage control, you'll have a successful relationship. And relationships are a lot, just like I've said, about mechanics, right? We talk about mechanics a lot. 70% of your relationship mechanics, and then the final 30% are those moments of love and bliss and, love and bliss, right? So I agree with you in that sense. Now, the great analogy, this is the first time I've given it, I think about this a lot. You have a PC. You take just the fan out of a PC, it doesn't work anymore. It overheats. When your relationship's going well, or when circumstances are good, you can be in a relationship with anyone. What defines your relationship is how you behave when things go wrong.
Yes.
And the defining things when things go wrong is how you communicate when things go wrong. So you're absolutely right. If you're going to train anything, and like you said it in different words, but being able to resolve conflict is a muscle that you can work. You can read about this.
Yeah.
You can read about conflict resolution in the annal of business and in the annal of love. And also, negotiation isn't too many degrees apart from using skills that you can use in your relationship, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
But one message that I have to all couples is the concept of reps. You spend only 4.5 months of waking hours with your partner a year. A third of your year, because you spend a third awake, a third at work, and a third you spend with your partner if you're living together. 4.5 months a year, essentially, if you stock all the time together. That's not a long time to understand each other, learn each other, but most importantly, Ali, give each other some slack. I have a specific problem in my relationship, and it's occurred 5 times over the course of my 2.5-year relationship. 5 times this issue has occurred. When it got to the 3rd time, we started noticing it. And we were like, whoa, this is not good. But I was like, I need more reps. As much as I want to not do this thing that is causing a problem in our relationship, I'm sorry it happens. I feel so remorseful. I'm doing everything I can. But I need more than 3 goes to, in that moment, have the awareness that this is the time it's happened. The thing that is the problem is not happening every day, so I'm not quick to be conscious when it's happening. Is this making sense?
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
So over the course of 2 years, this thing's happened 5 times. Now it's dissipated. Now, after the 5th rep, I've built enough awareness of it that when it happens, I know it's happening and I can control it. People aren't giving enough time. Sometimes my partner does things in the same way and she feels really bad about them. And I say to her, you've only had 2 reps of this problem. I'm going to give you more reps to give you more opportunities to pull yourself back and position yourself in a better way. And those 2 more reps may take 3 years. That problem may only lift its head above the parapet twice in a year. I can't control that. So to say that this relationship needs to end because you've done this thing 3 times over the span of 2 years, is that fair?
Absolutely not. The way I see it is, people need to learn to become better lovers. Everything's a skill: communication, conflict resolution, the love thing, the love languages, right? We all make the mistake. I certainly made that mistake in my first relationship of expecting to receive love in the way that I give it, and then you become really frustrated when your partner isn't showing you the love that you believe you should receive, because you're looking at it from a very one-dimensional perspective. You're like, well, I'm buying you gifts. Where's my gifts? Or I'm hugging you a lot. Why aren't you hugging me a lot? And so people are just not giving the relationship enough time. And I like the reps analogy because, you need to make sure that you come into the relationship with the expectation that it will become a successful one. And if I expect something to become successful, then I'm going to do absolutely everything I can. I'm going to make sure that I communicate effectively with my partner. If you come into it with the mentality of, well, one mistake, if this guy makes one, it's like a probation almost. And look, to an extent, when you're in a relationship, there's no guarantee it will last, but you should expect it to last.
You create the guarantee. But what you're saying is perfect, man. And you said this before. You said in the annal of individualism, you said, want good for yourself.
Yeah.
Want good for your relationship. Sometimes I'll be mid-argument with my partner. I'll be like, do we really want to do this? Like, I don't want to do this. And she'll be like, to be honest with you, no. Like, sometimes you have to negotiate and do an action plan. Sometimes you have to just forget it happened.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Everyone has, and every situation needs a different approach, right? But yeah.
No, absolutely. I'm with you on that. I think you come into it with the expectation, this will work, and I'll do everything I can. And I think, look, going back to dating apps, it's definitely instilled the mindset of, well, if you don't want to, then I'll find someone else. And what people don't realize is that everyone is broken. Everyone has problems. There's no person that is going to be absolutely the right fit from day one. If I meet a girl today, she's not going to know fully who I am, if ever, because the old couples that I've spoken to, they've told me that I'm still learning about my partner and what she likes and what he likes, right? And I'm like, wow, you guys been together 60 years and you're still learning? And so this mindset that within a 4-week period of seeing somebody twice for coffee, they're going to understand you and what you're after. And that's why I like going back to, Last Love. I like how you ask the important questions from the beginning. So that is taken care of. And then from there, you allow people to get to know each other. And now they understand that the core values
discover
are
what
aligned.
we've already discovered, right? We've taken we've done the sort of hard, unromantic thing of getting to know that person as quickly as possible. And then now we've just pushed you together. You can be certain when we've matched you that you've got so many exciting things to learn about this person that you will enjoy to learn about them. We've guaranteed that.
Yeah.
To your point before about, if I may just bring it back about the arguments, when you do something for the first time, most of the failure is in the first innings. So the dichotomy of relationships is, if you're with a person long enough, the arguments come fewer and further in between. They become less about the same things, more about new things, but that's progress. And people judge. I've heard, I'm not going to make this a gender thing, but people I've heard people talking about, we used to argue all the time. How long were you together? 2 years. What else were you expecting? You're learning each other.
Exactly.
If you threw that relationship over 10 years, the 10th year would probably have the 5 to 10th year would have 0 arguments. The first 2 years could be carnage. Do I think they should be? They have to be? Absolutely not. It's possible that you can meet someone that you align with in such a way where it makes it easier. But if you found someone that you don't align with, it just means you've got more work to do. It's not a criteria for ending the relationship. It just means you've got to work harder, and that's okay. But arguments in the first 2 years will dissipate compared to the third, compared to the fourth, compared to the fifth, and eventually there'll be no arguments.
I like that take. I like that take.
And then another thing about the trauma, you've hit the nail on the head with this, and nobody's talking about this. Guys like to talk so much about their mummy issues and daddy issues with girls. You think guys are free from mummy and daddy issues? Are you lost? You think we don't have issues? We probably have more issues than the women.
Yeah.
At least they get around and talk to each other about it, and we don't.
We don't.
So this idea that, and people, when they talk about like broken, like Fresh and Fit are extremely broken individuals.
Oh, absolutely.
They have so much childhood trauma. Like I've got good and bad things to say about them. Mostly 99% bad. I think they're net negative. But they are two extremely traumatized individuals.
I agree.
These are not people you want leading your view of women.
Oh, absolutely. And I've actually spoken about them before on the channel as well. There's a lot of terrible advice shared. And look, I don't like to make conclusive statements about anybody. I mean, there are certain things that they speak about that have merit. However, when they talk about what a man should do when it comes to approaching a relationship, awful advice. You know, I heard, I don't know if it was Fit that said this, but he said, you must sleep with 50 women before you get married. And I'm like, sleep with 50 women. And then the same guy will criticize women for being promiscuous and engaging in hookup culture. And it's like, well, hang on a second. Men can also be whores, you know, and also they talk about, you know, a woman's ability to pair bond diminishes the more partners she has. Well, so do guys as well.
Statistically, promiscuous men, less satisfied in relationships, more likely to divorce, more likely to cheat. This is men. And it's the same for the women. It's 100, but they don't talk about this because they don't want, it doesn't fit their agenda.
No.
When any man that's sleeping around, all the guys that you revere, they're broken individuals. That is not healthy for them and not healthy for anyone around them.
Not at all. And it's like, you know, it's funny because he'll say sleep with 50 and then get married. A sacred connection that marriage is now, you know, being initiated by two people who are extremely broken. Look, I don't know if you believe in the whole soul ties thing. I do believe that people's energy rub off on you. And so if you're around people that,
100%,
you know, are all over the place mentally and, you know, you've had 50, 60, 100, 200 partners, it will affect you. And it will also make you, in my opinion, skeptical as well, because you've gone through so many people that now your approach, and I have guy friends like this who have slept with over 100 and 200, and they brag about it, and I call them out on it when they brag about it.
Well,
you know, you have nothing to show for it.
Yeah.
There's nothing that has come out of it other than, you know, you've got yourself a little bit of pleasure out of it in the moment, temporary, 5 minute, fleeting.
Yeah.
But there's nothing to show for it. You know, you're not building something with anybody. You're not moving into your first apartment together. There's no child in the equation. And so it's like you're bragging about something that, and the same guys, by the way, when a woman will brag about that, oh, hang on a second, you whore, you know, you need God. And it's like, well, my brother, you need God too. Yeah. You know, because what you're engaging in is destroying you.
This brings us on to a great subject. Interestingly, you've said it already, but the different words I use is these guys who are telling you to sleep around and sleep around themselves, sleep around with girls until they're 30. This is the guys. And then they complain that the pool of women left all hoes, but you made them the hoes. Now you're complaining that the girls that you made hoes, you can't marry because they're hoes. I mean, how we spend, like, how we can't draw these conclusions ourselves is beyond me. Like, for anyone to say this, it just makes them look stupid. But another thing is, this idea that you can be a male hoe and then somehow flick a switch inside yourself and stop being that way and be okay being that way, you're not going to enjoy your life. Like, because you're so, lust is a drug.
Yes.
And imagine you're doing cocaine or heroin and then suddenly just go cold turkey. It's impossible.
It doesn't work this
way. You won't be able to do that. And this brings us on to sexual discipline.
Yes. And I talk a lot about, you know, the no-fap movement on my channel, you know, the dangers of pornography. But I very closely link it to hookup culture. Yeah. Because of apps such as Tinder and Bumble, they encourage hookup culture. Yeah. Because it's very surface level. They don't go into detail. They don't go deeper like you do. You know, what I like about what you're building is that you want depth over width. You want one solid connection with one person, as opposed to, you know, like you put it, a sausage fest. Yeah. Essentially, where, you know, all you're doing is just the way I see it, and you know, maybe it's a bit explicit the way I put it, but you're basically using somebody else to masturbate almost.
Yeah.
You know, because people, when you
It's
put
a
it
great way
this
to
way,
put it, yeah.
when you put it this way, it's like, hang on a second, it's true, because there's nothing meaningful coming out of it. You know,
Interestingly, 60% of women don't climax on one night stands. So the guys that are having sex, they're not doing a good job.
why am I not surprised about that? Why am I not surprised? And that's why it only lasts one night.
Yeah,
you know?
and that's versus 76% of women who climax in a relationship. So the numbers are there, girls. You're not having a good time. Stop pretending.
And see, that's the thing. This is why you become a better lover when you get into something
Absolutely.
serious.
Yeah.
You have a more fulfilling relationship.
It's a waltz. It's a dance. You learn each other. You get better at dancing together. It's beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, there are studies, I'm sure you're well aware of married men doing better.
Yeah.
Financially as well.
Married men make more money, live longer, avoid certain diseases. On every scale, married men have better lives than single men.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, I had a good friend of mine on the podcast last week. He got married at 22.
Oh, beautiful.
You know,
I've got a friend like
amazing
that
to
too, yeah.
Yeah.
He's got 3 kids, my friend has now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. You know, my friend has 2 kids, 2 daughters, and you know, I love seeing things like that. I love seeing men take the courageous leap
Yeah.
to get into a serious relationship. And I know a lot of guys want to wait until they have everything in order, and I want to be successful and this and this, because they see these videos online of these guys saying you must be a high value man to lock a woman down. What's your take on that? Do you believe a man needs to be at a certain level in order to even get into the conversation of marriage?
No, I disagree entirely. I think like extreme levels of success, and extreme, I'm talking, you know, 70K and above in our country here. So in the US, whatever, you know, $100 or $120 a year, $120,000. I think that level of success, firstly, let's get the numbers right. That's a huge level of success, right?
Yes.
To get that level of success. I think that is hard to achieve. I think if you've been in the working game long enough, the 9-to-5 game, business game is for everyone, but it's like very risky, very hard. All these things are very hard to do. Everyone has the chance to do them, but it's very hard to do. But it's not for the faint-hearted. You know what I mean? It's really difficult to do those kind of things. And when you do them, it does put a lot of strain on the rest of your life. And when you realize when you've been in the working world long enough, it's largely rigged. There's a lot of rigging. There's a lot of, you know, back scratching that needed. There's a lot of discrimination and prejudice elements that, you know, a lot of success is just luck.
Yes.
If you speak to any honest businessman or woman, she'll tell you the moment where she knew that she got lucky, you know, and for some it comes earlier than others. For some it never comes. But to delay the most beautiful thing, which is love in a relationship, for the hope or dream of achieving this other thing, I think is wrong. I think a man should always have his own level of ambition. And I think you have to graduate. Your ambition has to graduate. You can't go from a 0 to $1 million.
Yeah.
If you're at 0 right now, create a business that generates £1,000 of revenue a month. When you've done that, come back to me. Now make it 10,000. Either scale that one or do something else that has more scale.
Yeah.
And what that's going to do is you're slowly building the pedigree, slowly building the learning, the network that's going to help you reach the next level. But to go from 0 to $1 million, it's not impossible, but it's largely improbable. And to set yourself up in that way is you're going to cause that insecurity in yourself, and you're going to create the framework for your own demise when you're trying to do that crazy thing. If you slowly graduate, you've got a much better chance of success. But what will likely happen is on that journey to $1 million, probably when you get to 1 or 2 or 3 or £5,000 a month and you're still doing your day job, you'll probably be happy there. And you'll like the sort of time you get with your wife and how she feels about you and the security you get. You'll probably feel fine at that point. And then you start saving, and then you putting your money into index funds, and you'll probably be happy and live happily.
Yeah.
Not everyone needs to be the CEO. Not everyone has to be a millionaire. It's not necessarily an enjoyable task, and it's not for the faint-hearted.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you there. And I like how you brought up how it's actually quite improbable as well. You know, the likelihood of you running a successful business is slim. And it's not to say that you shouldn't try. I believe, you know, in trying, you find yourself and you grow as a man. You know, Jim Rohn used to say, set a goal to be a millionaire for what it will make of you to achieve it. You know, and the money isn't, you know, absolutely the end goal. You know, it's nice to make a little bit of money, but it's who you become in the process. And so I like how you've put it here. I don't believe guys should delay happiness for a future date. And obviously being in a relationship, a rewarding relationship, is one of those things that, you know, you can have early on in your 20s and your mid 20s. You know, I speak to guys on coaching calls and they tell me, Ali, I've got this girl in my life. She's amazing, this and this. And they list out all of her great qualities. And then they say at the end, but I'm not where I want to be. You know,
see what I said at the start, you've got to be very careful about that, guys. I'm a victim of it myself. My younger man self has done this, but you're creating your own distress, insecurity, and it's the male version of saying, do I look fat in this? And you're going to invoke an instability in your partner, which is evolutionary. Don't think bad of her.
Yeah.
This is within her neurology, right? And that's wrong. Do your best not to do that. If at times you slip up, that's okay. But it shouldn't be this enduring perspective where you feel inadequate. Like, and this is the problem. And this is the sort of the thing we've got to reconcile in our own mind, and we can't because we're men, and they can't reconcile things about us. Like women can't reconcile that we don't care the shape of their nose. We don't care about cellulite, but they cannot reconcile that. And in the same way, the equal and opposite is we can't comprehend that she doesn't care that I don't make £100,000. She's happy that we're happy. As my responsibility as the man is make sure I've got my finger on the pulse of the next thing without overarching and making sure I keep the stability.
Yeah.
That's the beauty, man.
That's what it is, 100%. People self-sabotage, and sometimes they don't even know they're doing it.
Yeah.
You know, it's a subconscious thing.
Yeah.
And if you speak to a guy who's engaging in these destructive habits, you realize, you know, they realize through speaking about it. And this is why us guys, we need to sit down. You know, if you're feeling a little bit insecure in your ability to lead a girl in a relationship, sit down with your fellow brothers, someone that you trust, you know, a masculine role model, because they've probably been there themselves. And they'll tell you, you know what, I used to think this way when I was a young man, but what I realized was that, you know what, it wasn't actually that big of a problem. You know, we often magnify the problem in our minds. We always resort to the worst case scenario, you know, and that's why I said earlier, expect it to work out. You know, tell yourself, okay, you know what, I might not be where I want to be financially, but I've got a good job. I'm taking care of the house. I'm sure, you know, someone with my ambition will figure things out eventually, you know, but the how doesn't matter. I always talk about how you're going to fit the pieces together doesn't matter as much as you think it does. And people want absolute certainty. And it's the same thing when it comes to dating, right? People want certainty that she's the right one before they risk falling in love. You know, that's why it's something you've probably heard as well. People are like, well, I don't want to get my heart broken again. You know, I've been there, and, you know, they get led by fear.
Yeah, it's what you've got to accept. You know what I mean? Like, I wish we could live in a world, and I think it would be a beautiful world where everyone just sort of accepted who they were and just started building. And for some people, it'll take a year or two to reach nirvana. Maybe it takes your relationship 10. But I think there's honor in that, in working for that long. I'd like to bring it back, if I may, to the sexual discipline. Absolutely. This is a subject I'm very passionate about. I have a lot to speak on this subject. This is awkward, but at points in my life, I've not busted a nut for 10 months. At points in my life. And I cannot describe to you the feeling that has. Like, it just makes you feel so great, so powerful. And the obvious thing is, it's obvious why I'm saying 10 months, you know. Some points in your wife is going to be having your child, and sex may not be accessible. And using that as an excuse to watch porn or sleep around is just childish. That's all I've got to say on that matter. So at points in your life, just being able to do it, you'll likely become addicted to it. But it's a great feeling. Now, the thing I'd like to say on this subject is attraction. So attraction, seduction, it's very fickle, it's very precious. When you're masturbating all the time, you don't have this evolutionary lust for women that is natural, right? And what I mean to say is that people talk about blue balls. Blue balls is an amazing thing if you can meditate your way through it. You know, I can smell my girlfriend's personality in the other room. You know, when I'm doing my semen retention, right? And it's an amazing feeling. But if you're not in a relationship, you think all women are beautiful. Why? Because they are. All women are beautiful. And that is the thing inside us. We're taking the I'm straddling here. Like, obviously I'm religious, but I'm going to speak in objective, just like secular terms, right? that is part of the power they have over us, right? Is their beauty. And it's a beautiful thing. And it's something that they should not ever be vilified for, right?
Yes.
It's God-given, right? And that beauty is what helps us. It's the first thing. It's one of the things that help us appreciate women. Hopefully you can get past the beauty. But one thing, I can't say for sure that it's okay that we say that that's the thing that makes us love women, but not having that esoteric connection with them definitely makes us hate them. So all these men that are saying that, oh, I don't need women, I hate women, I guarantee they're masturbating every single day.
Oh yeah.
Because you cannot semen retain and think women are just these awful, disgusting women. Like, all women are beautiful. And the reason why you don't think they're beautiful is because you're jacking off to porn. And now, because you're jacking off to porn and seeing all of these crazy things, you can now only consider something that looks like a porn star to be beautiful.
Yes.
The girl next door no longer arouses you, when if you stop masturbating, you won't be able to control yourself with the girl next door. Now, you've created a criteria for your own demise.
Absolutely.
You're masturbating. You only find your criteria for success is lust. You only lust after porn-like women. Porn-like women are often not good long-term relationship people. This goes for men and women as well, but I'm just speaking in these terms. So you're pursuing something that's inevitably going to fail anyway, but also you're likely, because you're masturbating, have very little chance with this person. If you just stop masturbating, you will rightfully think all women are beautiful and all women are gorgeous, and you'll attune to them, and you'll be interested in what they're about, because it creates the incentive for us to want to learn them. As soon as you're masturbating all the time and you don't have that natural thirst for wanting to be around women or in and amongst them, you no longer care for them or how they feel or what's important to them, because you don't feel a desire to need to be around them, because you just satisfy yourself in the dark.
Yes.
So I feel like young men definitely go on long strides of semen retention, and that's going to inspire you to go, hey, do you know what? They're beautiful. They're great. Let's lean into them. What are they interested in? How can I please them, right? And equally, disconnected from that, you should always be learning what's important for them to please you, right? But I'm just speaking this one singular term. Yes,
no, I'm fully with you on that. I've spoken on the channel about how destructive pornography is, and I just want to touch on what you mentioned there about what guys see in porn isn't real. It's not. It's acting. I think people forget that it's acting. And porn stars have come out and spoken about how they didn't feel comfortable making certain scenes, and sometimes it was against their will. And that's why I speak so passionately against pornography, because it's an exploitative environment that abuses women, and also programs men to view women as nothing but objects of meat, basically, to satisfy their desires. And so you're definitely very right when you get on semen retention. And that's something that I believe you should do regardless of whether you're in a relationship or not. Obviously, you can't demand sex whenever you want in a relationship, because you're in a relationship with a real human being that you need to communicate with. It's not somebody that you can have your way with without communication. And so, whether you're in a relationship or not, I believe it's important to practice that, because, hookup culture, as we've spoken about, is also something I speak against, because you're essentially using somebody else to masturbate there as well. And so when you retain, it allows you to think clearer, from my perspective, and from my experience of being, on semen retention as well, is you think a lot clearer. Yeah. And you're able to have deeper connections with people. There's that period of psychological chaos that you have to get through. You don't immediately get the clarity when you have semen retention on blue balls. You have to meditate through to this nirvana, where everything, you'll know this, Yes. I'm not saying that every aspect of semen retention is easy, and sometimes you slip into bouts of this chaos, this sexual chaos, and then you've got to control yourself again. But then when you reach that state of control, there's no better feeling. Exactly. And so what would you say to a guy who is skeptical about it? Obviously we're speaking very strongly about the rewards of being on it, but somebody might say, well, it's natural, and what's wrong with it, and at the end of the day, I'm a human being, and I got to take care of my needs as well. Where does the power lie, and how can someone navigate their way through this difficult journey.
I want to provide balance, and the balance is the jury's out on this. I haven't done much reading into it, but I've heard that men. I don't know how true this is. I need to look into it myself. Men need to ejaculate in order to avoid prostate cancer or something, right? And I think this has been given rise to maybe single men who aren't having moderately recurrent sex with their partners, right? So this possibly could be a new phenomenon. I don't know too much about this because I guess normally people are often in relationships and then at some point do have sex within the course of a month. But people who are reluctant to do this, most of the time you're doing it because you're bored. I know you think you have to do it or you're hooked. You're largely just bored. It's an addiction, right? And the general principle of addiction is when you've got nothing, idle hands make mischief, right? When you've got nothing better to do, your mind just draws to this deviant thing. So if you're having, always be ambitious and talk about it openly with friends. Don't hide it. Feel a bit of shame about it, if you have to. Yeah. It'll only be a few seconds. Speak to a friend. What will often happen is you'll speak to your friend, you'll feel a bit of shame, and he'll be going for the same thing. Yeah. And then you can just help each other out. Yeah. You should have Ben on. Have you had Ben on?
No.
The NoFap King?
No.
I'll put you in touch. You'll have a good chat. Do that. But more than anything, trial yourself at least 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Try and keep yourself busy every evening or whatever time of the day it is that you do it, to help you circumvent that. But I'd like to talk about how the problem of NoFap goes deeper. Much like the sleeping around with guys, don't think you're going to free yourself of the disadvantages of NoFap when you get into a relationship. It will absolutely, and porn combined with it, will affect your sex life. Like you were saying, Ali, what you see on porn is absolutely not necessarily how girls like sex to go down. The 5 days leading up, and let me give you guys some game. This science I think is disputed, but it was once thought that the 5 days leading up to ovulation, women do tend to be more sexually promiscuous. That doesn't mean beating and all that nonsense that you see on porn. Whatever that means to the girl, just be aware of that. And then after, obviously, the days leading up to menses, then they want something about perhaps a bit more softer and slower. But none of that stuff that you see on porn is necessarily desirable to most women. Women do obviously enjoy intercourse, but they much more enjoy, the theatre before and the theatre after.
Yes, it's the build-up.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, this is probably for the really young men that don't have any experience, so just be aware of that. The older men will know this by now, but women prefer deep intimacy and seduction and everything before and the cuddling afterwards. That is what's most important to them. Absolutely.
And look, this is something that I talk about on the channel because it's a big problem for a lot of guys. In fact, my NoFap videos do better than any other video. And I've been asked before, Ali, why do you keep making videos around this topic? Because a lot of men are struggling. And, I see comments sometimes of married men saying that they can't stop. And I spoke to a guy recently on a coaching call, who told me that he had to, after our conversation, he mentioned after that he deleted 2 terabytes worth of explicit content on his computer.
My God.
Married man, by the way. And look, I have sympathy because I understand it's a difficult thing to overcome, but it can be something that you overcome. Once again, expect that things will get better. To navigate your way through this process as easily as possible, make sure that you're filling your time with fulfilling activities.
Yes.
Because I always say free time is the enemy. Free time is the enemy because you end up doing things that you don't necessarily want to do, but because you want to kill time, you end up doing it. And that's the issue with porn. You start off watching 1 or 2 videos, and then before you know it, 3-4 hours have gone by, you're looking for the perfect scene. And and especially if you're in a relationship as well. I mean, you have a whole human being who you're probably attracted to that you no longer look at in that way. Now you're looking for something hardcore to fulfill your needs. And so, it's absolutely devastating. However, the good news is, you can overcome this addiction. Work on yourself. First of all, the way I see it is to change, you need to first of all become aware of your problems. Awareness is key. Once you're aware of the issues, then you can start working towards them.
Actually, something else, if I may, just to add there, is the gateway to the hard porn is the soft porn. It's the OnlyFans girls on TikTok or the sexual suggestion, all that kind of material on TikTok and Instagram. So, and the great thing about, try to not interact and even spend a second on the sexually honeypotting stuff that you see on TikTok, because TikTok will then just throw that stuff on you. As sinister as that is, as soon as you stop interacting or stop spending a few seconds on this sexually suggestive stuff, hopefully TikTok won't recommend it to you. But you've got to police yourself on all platforms. Because those are the gateway,
Yes.
You see a bit of bikini, bit of nipple, and then you go straight to the,
That's the trigger right there.
Absolutely. And another thing is, someone gave me a really good idea, is that you can, if you're in a really tough position, and we all love social media, that's fine, put a child lock on your TikTok for a while, and that will help you hopefully not see those things until such a time where you have greater control over it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I learned this concept from the book Atomic Habits. James Clear talks about environment design. Your environment has to support you. And so if you're somebody who's addicted to something, then you've got to make sure that you make adjustments in your environment to ensure that you don't slip up.
Sure.
If you're someone that's trying to lose weight and you keep buying things that are high in calories, such as, Krispy Kreme donuts and everything, you've got to remove them from sight. Same thing with, somebody who's addicted to pornography. Yes, you can't get rid of your phone because you need it, but maybe leave it downstairs before you go to your room. Your laptop, leave it downstairs. You make slight adjustments to ensure that, you're not going to slip up, essentially. Because we're weak, we're human beings.
Yeah.
None of us are perfect.
This isn't a fully developed thought, and I'm wary of sharing it, but I'm an honest guy, so I'll just talk to you guys about it. Women are absolutely not the solution or antidote to your porn problem. They're absolutely not. But it wouldn't hurt to get out there, either using Last Love, and just talk to girls, like, in a friendly manner. Like, you don't have to be propositioning them or anything. I think it's nice to be around good girls and just share their energy and speak to them, understand what's going on in their lives and stuff. I just think I'm drawing on some young friends that I have, and I think the younger generation, they just don't spend time around girls, and there's a beauty to their energy that I think it's very fueling, and almost like it might create I absolutely don't think they're the antidote. Getting a girlfriend is not the solution to you having nofap issues, but I think being around girls maybe create a bit of incentive for you to do better for yourself, because men are, in a beautiful way, driven a lot by women, which is a beautiful thing.
Yes.
So one of the problems could be that you're not spending enough time around good women,
That's very true. I think it traps a lot of guys. It prevents them from going out there, and it affects the way they feel about themselves, which will obviously cause them problems. I mean, if you see yourself, and I like to put it this way in my nofap videos, if you see yourself as a sad wanker, then you're not going to have the courage to go out there and introduce yourself to somebody, whether it's women or even potentially another guy for business or networking possibilities. If you're not sure of yourself, it will translate, and people will feed off that energy. In the same way that we spoke about how women will feed off of a guy's energy when he's insecure about himself, and that projection, they can see it and they can feel it. And it's the same when it comes to, whether you're, for example, about to go into for a job interview and you're like, well, I'm not good enough, or I don't think, they can feel that energy, because you don't have that absolute conviction in yourself. And obviously, look, when you work on yourself and you start improving, you will increase your self-esteem. You'll feel better about yourself. And there's a saying that I love: a man that has confidence in himself gains the confidence of others. Yeah. And so if you're not having much luck with women, for example, it's probably because you're not giving yourself credit for a lot of the amazing things that you have, personality traits. Guys talk about money all the time, and that's the only focus. But, some of you guys are charismatic, you're funny, you've got a lot going for you. You need to tap into that. And when you go out on a date with a girl, show that side of yourself a lot more. You're hiding that side because you're afraid. You're keeping that locked in, and maybe that's the make or break between you going on a second date, third date.
I'd like to add something to this conversation, if I may, just because of the way the conversation's gone. Firstly, like I said before, I think there's so much reading that can be done, and with knowledge comes power. Power is probably the wrong word, but gives you confidence, right? When I started, especially female biochemistry, a lot of girls don't even understand their own biochemistry. So when I read about it, and I feel like I have a better understanding of biochemistry, female biochemistry, than most females do. And it gives me a sense of like, I can build trust with them, but it makes me feel confident that, I get you in a way that you may not necessarily get in yourself. And it just gives me that confidence. But I want to talk about the alpha thing, the concept of alpha. I'm sure you've heard about this already, but I spoke to a gentleman called Yuval. He sort of told me this story, but the concept of a alpha male doesn't exist. The scientists that studied the wolves to create this notion realized it was wrong, and he's been spending his life trying to discredit his own research. What he finds is, in a wolf pack, different alphas exist along the chain. Everyone has a different responsibility. And what I mean by that is everyone is an alpha in their own arena. Dr. Disrespect is an alpha. CoffeeZilla is an alpha. Magnus Carlsen, the chess guy, he is an alpha. Equally, Elon Musk is an alpha. You know, Jocko Willink is an alpha. You can be an alpha, a Dungeons and Dragons alpha. I'm trying to take it to the extreme.
Yeah.
You don't have to become someone else or something else. Whatever environment you're in, there's alphas amongst that. There's women in those groups. Like, you don't have to go to Miami, become some like false alpha to like be able to draw women from a completely different community, right?
Yeah.
So don't feel like you have to become someone else. Don't even try to be alpha. Just try and do the best you can be in your own environment. And the women from that environment, which are the women that you're most likely to have the most success with because you align the most, because you're in that environment, right? You'll have a good relationship with.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a fascination with the phrases alpha and beta and sigma, and you know, you hear all these. You know, I get comments sometimes on my channel of people saying the best way to be is sigma, and I'm like, what does that even mean?
Bloody hell.
You know, these words didn't exist from my understanding like 10, 15 years ago. They did, but people weren't talking about them. Now there's an obsession with being labelled an alpha male, and I think it's quite corny. If I'm honest, I think, you know, take pride in who you are. You know, what women want to see is a man who is sure of himself. A man who, and I say this regardless of whether you're meeting women or just meeting anybody, stand true to your core values. Be proud of them. This is who you are. Don't change your way to, that's the whole nice guy thing. You know, you're changing who you are to please others. It's an activity that screams weakness. You know, I don't trust the guy who doesn't want to be himself around me. Or even somebody who agrees with everything I say. Oh, hang on a second. You know, surely there's a disagreement somewhere. And look, we don't have to be dicks about it. We don't have to insult each other. You know, I could have a disagreement with you, but we'd have it in the most respectful manner.
Absolutely. It's interesting you say this because I heard this. I've spoken to a few friends of mine who are girls, and they said this exact thing. They said to me, they find it extremely peculiar when they go on first dates with guys, and they're just agreeing with them. Like, it's almost patronizing. It's like, and then the problem is you heard these other idiots, these dating coaches, like, oh, put your foot down every once in a while to send a message. It's nonsense. You shouldn't be doing that on purpose. It will happen naturally.
It will happen naturally.
You've just got to be true to yourself. I can't tell you how many girls say to me, like, he was just agreeing with everything I said. Like, and he was like, he had not much to offer. Just be yourself, and the right people will be attracted to you, and you'll be attracted to them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, of course, there are things that you can change as a guy. For example, if you're insecure as a man, you should work on your insecurity because women don't like it. You know, like if you ask her a question such as, are you speaking to anybody else? Or, you know, am I good looking enough for you? Or, you know, is my lisp okay? Or, you know, if you're asking questions like that, what that communicates to her is that you don't like yourself. And if you don't like yourself, why should I like you? You know, so of course, those things you need to address. And I believe that you can address them as you get to know somebody. But, you know, in my opinion, it's better to work on those things before you start communicating with someone. Otherwise, you will self-sabotage naturally. If all you've done over the years is just talk down to yourself, and you need to get that out of you before you start speaking to somebody, because your success rate will be very, very low if you start speaking to women and, you know, you hate yourself. Yeah. You know,
I don't know how best to word this, but like, speak to people on your level, whatever that means to you, because those are the people you're going to have the best interactions with. There's no point you going to speak to someone that, you know, I'm speaking in shallow nature here, right? I don't know. I'm going to speak in terms of numbers. I don't like doing this. I'm just low-hanging fruit to make sense of what I'm saying. Like, if you're a 6, like, what are you going to get out of speaking to a 10? Like, you're not going to understand each other. You're not going to have a high level of success. The framework of her personality will be different. Not bad or good. I'm just saying different.
Yeah.
It may invoke insecurity in you over the long run. And that will, and it's typical, like, Hollywood movie, right? Like guy or girl goes with lesser guy or girl, and eventually everything's fine, and the honeymoon period's over, and then your insecurity sets in.
Yeah.
And I mean, can you rise to it? Sure. But do you need to? No. Like the women at your level are just as beautiful, looking for love in as much the ferocious way as you are.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of guys have plenty of misconceptions when it comes to attractive women as well.
Yeah.
You know, they think, oh no, she wouldn't want a guy like me, but a lot of these incredibly beautiful women, and obviously beauty is a subjective thing, but a lot of these beautiful women want to get married, they want to have kids, and they want a normal relationship.
Yeah.
You know, they're not after some billionaire with a leopard robe who, you know, travels to space and comes back every day. You know, I think a lot of guys have put these women on some sort of pedestal, and when you put anything on a pedestal, you're below it. And so you'll carry yourself like somebody who's not good enough, and you'll have those needy behaviors. Because I speak to guys all the time about this. You know, they talk about how they feel, you know, inferior. And that's a problem. You know, of course, we spoke earlier about how, you know, beauty is a currency. And I don't know how you put it exactly, but, you know, as a guy, you're judged on different metrics. You know, you've probably heard women say things along the lines of, you know, I like medium ugly men. You know, I don't want him to be too cute because then he might get a lot of interest from women. I think a lot of guys will be surprised about how a lot of these women are, you know, perfectly reasonable in their expectations.
I absolutely agree with you. Like I'm saying with absolute certainty, you're right. Like most of the girls you see on the internet, with the greatest respect, they're like disagreeable girls. And all the girls, and there are a lot of girls that aren't like a good girls and are on the internet, but like you wouldn't catch any of my girlfriends on the internet. They just don't have the personality to be that way. They're more suited to like other things which aren't that, you know. So almost I'm saying, perhaps a bit too broad to say, but like the girls worth having, the girls that are in most abundance, that aren't going on the internet, and they're not represented on the internet at all. All the women you're seeing represented on the internet, just like the guys, are largely the degenerates. You know, on the like fresh and fit. Come on, like, you know what I mean. All of those girls on there are damaged. It's just everyone's incentivized to be a degenerate. Like the more degenerate the girls are, the more fresh and fit look good, the more views they get. Like it's just a vicious cycle. You know what I mean? They're incentivized to bring on degenerates.
Well, that's exactly it. I mean, there is an absolute game plan with that. You know, they're very strategic with how they structure their podcast because they want to get those controversial moments. Do you believe that you attract what you are?
Absolutely. So
if you're a guy that engages in hookup culture, you're not going to get high quality women in your circle because, and it's the same, I mean, it's what you touched on earlier really about being able to flick the switch, going from a guy who engages in hookup culture to suddenly being a faithful married man. It just doesn't work this way. In the same way with being addicted to porn. Yeah.
It's impossible. And they'll lead you to believe, like, all these guys that are sleeping around, they'll lead you to believe, like, somehow they can do that. And they can't. And equally, you know, I can even be fair to say it, none of us know for sure. But it's impossible for them to do that. And they won't enjoy their lives over the long run. And the problem is this Trump-like thing where it's like, you know, I'm getting a bit political here. You know, in the UK, we've got working class people voting for Tories. I'm not indicating my political affiliations, but we live in this phenomenon where people with no money are voting for a party which supports the affluent. And the reason why is because the dream of, well, if I was rich, then this is how I would want to be treated. Yeah. So you're living vicariously through these male hoes because you're thinking, well, if I could do it, I would do it. And that's not okay, man.
Yeah.
That's the reason why they're getting support from guys that they hate.
Yeah.
Fresh and Fit don't... I mean, they bought that one follower on that time. I think he was a bit of a... How can I say this politely? Not a very well-respected, upstanding man.
Yeah.
And that is their viewer type.
And that's the thing, and it's predatory.
And they don't care about
what
them.
I don't like about it is that they take advantage of these men.
Yeah.
Because when you keep creating fear, you know, the only way to reassure these people is to keeping them scared, basically. Keep them scared and then give them a little bit of an antidote, keep them scared and then come back for more. And they create, basically an audience of people who are, you know, absolutely fearful, skeptical. There's a word for it or a phrase for it, the black pill community, MGTOW, all of those weird phrases that have come out as well, where people are just like, you don't need a woman as long as you're making six figures and you're healthy. You know, And it's like, you're allowing your past failures
Yeah.
to sabotage a potentially remarkable future. And what's worse is maybe you haven't had a bad past, but you're allowing these people on YouTube to project their failures. Maybe you could have gone on to have a great relationship with the first girl that you ever met, and you end up getting married, and you don't know how the odds will play out.
You're living vicariously through them.
That's
right?
exactly
And
it.
another thing is, most of the great men aren't on the internet. A few of them are, of course.
Well,
but most great men are busy living,
Yeah.
busy trying to keep their families happy and their wives happy. Most it's like survivor's bias. Like most of the great guys, they aren't into the internet, and that is a failing of great guys. But they're busy building families. So just be very careful where you're taking this advice from. But up until now, I'm going to give you all a pass, because I think a society has been led this way through music and debauchery, but especially through the framework of the dating apps. Now that we exist, you have no excuse.
Yeah.
Like, you have no excuse now. We have created the most solid matching mechanism in the most economically efficient way. There's no downside to Last Love. Like, now for the next 10 years, we'll fix all these problems.
That's actually a question I was going to ask you. Where do you see Last Love going? What are the goals, for the company? And where would you like to take it?
I think we're on the edge of a renaissance in the dating world, and the next frontier. I want to accelerate competition in the matching mechanism. The matching mechanism is the only problem to solve. All this other disappearing images and swipes and like that's all gamification and casinofication of dating apps. What I want is other startups to be created to compete with my matching mechanism. What a beautiful world that would be, where rather than dating apps competing for, nonsense swipes and likes capabilities, I get a competitor who's pushing me to build an even better matching mechanism. So that's my vision for the future of dating, that this becomes the criteria through which the user judges a dating app startup for the foreseeable future. Now, I want to accelerate that by we're essentially creating an entirely new segment. And I welcome competition. But what I hope happens with Last Love is, I hope more than anything, we change the world in that way. Money is important. I have a team that I need to provide for, and they need to provide for their families, and I'll do the best I can to make it an economic success. But like I said, I'm not in the interest of optimizing the business for revenue. I'm not in the interest of optimizing the business for efficiency. It takes you about 11 to 15 minutes to sign up. Like, it's not Tinder, it takes 60 seconds. It'll take you 11 minutes to 15 minutes. And if you're not happy about that, don't be a user. I don't care.
And you're not really ready for a relationship anyways.
I know. I don't care. Like, I really don't. I'll make no bones about it. But what I hope we do is just take society away, or give them the opportunity to take themselves away from decadence and debauchery.
And one thing I really respect is how you encourage competition as well, to heal the industry.
Absolutely.
Because, what we're seeing right now is absolute chaos. And we're seeing broken people. We're seeing people that are being taken advantage of, exploited. And so I really respect how you want potentially competitors to come into the space and start to undo some of the damage and change the way things are. And out of interest, do you think from the current companies that exist in the marketplace, do you think they'll just continue this way because it's profitable and it makes a lot of money? And if anything, they'll probably add services to further exploit their audience. Where do you think it's going?
Great question. Absolutely, they'll continue on the same way. The reason why is because of the vested interests. Their entire revenue model is built on super low quality, high volume. Interestingly, the percentage of users on dating apps that actually pay is so small you wouldn't be able to guess.
Really?
It's just that even they're gambling with users. Like, I'm talking sub 5% of global users pay. Yeah.
Wow. Pay.
Out of hundreds of millions, only sub 5% actually pay. Obviously, 5% of hundreds of millions is still a lot, but as a statistic, 5% is
a lot higher.
It's not, because they're gambling with you, you're gambling with love, and they're just gambling on you at some point in time, paying money, right? Interestingly, Tinder released a new, to your point of with the carry on in this way, they absolutely they will carry on leading you to decadence and debauchery. They've released a feature which allows you to block your ex. So if you've been on a few dates, because you've been on loads of dates and you don't want to see them again, it'd be awkward. You can remove them from your sort of matching pool, but that's not the real reason for it.
What's the real reason?
They're doing that so you can hide it from your wife or your husband.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the real reason, I can assure you. Now, this was rolled out in Southeast Asia. I'm not sure if it's gone global yet, but I know it's coming. And I saw straight through it. As soon as I saw that feature, I was like, that is one of the most destructive features you can put on that app. I mean, already there's studies, very small studies, extremely small studies. So take this with a pinch of salt. The schools have thought that, up to 25 to 30% of Tinder users are already in a relationship.
Well, to be fair, that doesn't really surprise me because, I mean, from some of the guy friends that I've spoken to before, and, I don't like hearing things like this, where they'll tell me, oh yeah, she actually has a man, she's got it. And I'm like,
what are you doing?
You're aware of this and she's aware of this and you're okay with that?
Yeah.
That's disgraceful, but that doesn't surprise me one bit, to be fair. And so, yeah, I mean, it doesn't look like the future for traditional dating apps is very bright, for the users. Ultimately, it may be profitable for the owners and CEOs of these companies who continue to take advantage of these people, but I don't see how it will help people get into deep, meaningful relationships. I really don't. And it's actually fascinating because it's human connections are the most important thing in life.
Absolutely.
And something as important as this isn't being represented in the best possible way. And that's why I really respect what you're doing with Last Love, is because, and by the way, what was the trigger for the name? This is going to be my partner for life. Is that how it was?
We're accepting your dating life before us. We're assuming you've not had a good time, but we're putting an end to that with Last Love. So the working assumption is, we know you've had a bad time. We know it's not your first love, but we will find it the last.
Yeah, I respect that. And in terms of, for anyone watching right now who's thinking, well, how's it going for them at the moment in terms of the users and success stories? Are there any that, you can share with us?
By the time this goes out, we've got quite a big waiting list, but we have soft launched and we've done some tests on a smaller scale. But by the time this comes out, we will have launched. No success stories yet, but we're hoping that in very short order, we will have those success stories. Yeah,
brilliant. And it is the goal with the company as well to go global.
Absolutely. Well. We're available across all the Western English speaking world. So the service is available across UK, US, New Zealand, Australia, Canada, and we're hoping to extend that further. And we're hoping to make the matching mechanism. It's going to be a dynamic thing. It's continue to grow. I want to bring on people from religious leaders to come on and sort of give us their knowledge about how we can make it better to serve their communities. Another example I can give you of how we want to grow is the African community and also the Caribbean community, but I think it's more true of the African community. They have sort of tribes and stuff and those kind of nuances and sensitivities that I'm not aware of. But as we grow, I want to add to the team to further develop and further make the matching mechanism even more sophisticated for even these communities. And
would you say that, the purpose of Last Love is to help people get married?
100%.
Marriage is the sort of ultimate objective.
I care nothing about dating. We care nothing about it. We're only optimizing for long-term relationships, nothing else. I respect that because obviously, there are people from various backgrounds, religions, who have a certain way of doing things. And dating apps are seen as an almost dirty way to get to know somebody. Everybody's there for one thing, and no one talks highly of sort of the dating apps that exist out there, especially the likes of Tinder. And so for those that are from certain religious backgrounds, I'm a Muslim myself. So traditionally, the way things are done is you meet the father. Obviously, you'll see the girl first, and you'll ask around, and then you have to speak to the father, introduce yourself, and do things that way. Is that something that you can potentially incorporate into Last Love? 100%. A few sisters have actually reached out to me and said they really like where it's going. And another auntie actually, she reached out and said, I'm in this space I'd love to support. So we're talking to her. But absolutely, I understand the sensitivities about meher, when you have things like this. So this sort of needing to have parents involved first and stuff, absolutely, we're going to optimize for that. Absolutely. Every community that needs something optimizing, call me, let me know, email me. We're ready to do whatever is necessary.
Yeah. No, I fully respect that because, I'm a fan of taking advantage of the opportunities that are out there. Obviously, we live in a different time. 30 years ago, the only way was to see somebody in your town or village or city and ask around and potentially get to know them through people. But now we have opportunities available to us. Last Love is an opportunity that people can take advantage of to get to know somebody. And absolutely, why not take advantage of it? There shouldn't be any skepticism because it's an avenue to speak to real people. And obviously the team will be making sure that they match you with somebody who is going to align with you the most. Obviously all the core values and everything will be considered before obviously matching you with somebody. And then from there, it's up to you, the audience, to take it upon yourself to be serious. Now, one thing I want to get to know, I believe that you can only really get married once you make the intention to get married. Because if you're, for example, engaging in hookup culture or seeing people casually and you are of the mindset that we'll see where this goes, you're not going to attract the right circumstance because you're not respecting every encounter. However, when you make the intention that, if she shares the same core values as me, I'm serious about wanting to get married. I want a family. I want something where both the families know each other, and I want it to be serious. And I believe a lot of guys do want that. Of course, there's a lot of guys that are traumatized from previous experiences and are worried. But I believe that a lot of guys do want to get married. They do want to have kids. And I speak to guys my age. I'm 28. Some of my friends have been married years ago and have kids already. Some I speak to right now and they're like, man, I wish I had a son right now. I want to have kids. I want to have a family. And so there's a lot of guys out there that want something meaningful to come out of it. And so, I really respect the mission that you have with Last Love and where you want to take things. And, I wish you nothing but success in this endeavor. And, please do take advantage of the opportunity, fellas. I'm going to link all the details in the description down below. Where can people find you at the moment? So
we're at Last Love app on TikTok. The website is www.lastloveapp.com. But as Ali was saying, we're on a mission to fix things, and we're here to serve you. By the time this is out, we'll be live. We'd really love to have you as users to help you sort of find your love. And as I said before, I'm confident we are the best place online for you to meet someone meaningful. And as I said, we will only ever optimize to create a useful product for you. I'm not optimizing for efficiency. I'm not optimizing for revenue. I just want to create a great product and a great place for people to meet someone meaningfully.
That's brilliant to hear. And, just before we finish up, I always like to learn why people are doing certain things. I like to know what motivates them. There's a great book from Simon Sinek, Start With Why.
Yeah.
The why has to be powerful. And when someone says something like, well, I want to make a lot of money and buy a Lambo, that's great. That's fantastic. But the likelihood of you owning a Lambo is very slim with that mindset. However, if your mission is to help as many people as possible, have rewarding relationships, rewarding interactions, then I fully believe that it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, and I can definitely see things taking off because I believe in a cause such as this. I do encourage men all the time on my channel to find a good woman, get to know her, work on the relationship, have kids eventually. And so, it's something I'm fully behind and I fully back. And so, on that note, I'd like to conclude today's podcast. Once again, I want to thank you, Charan, for coming down. It's been an absolute pleasure having you here.
So kind of you, Ali, for having me.
And I'm sure we'll do this another time as well.
Absolutely, we're going to keep in touch,
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many topics that we can dive into, but I've thoroughly enjoyed my conversation with you. And so, ladies and gentlemen, make sure that you like this podcast, comment, let us know what you think down below. And if you're new here, consider subscribing for more episodes just like this. Thank you very much, everybody, and take care.